Welcome to day 8 of provision, seeing, receiving, and resting. Today we want to see that God has already provided for you before. Our verse of the day is from Deuteronomy 8, verse 18, which says, "But you are to remember the Lord your God, for it is He who is giving you power to make wealth, in order to confirm His covenant, which He swore to your fathers, as it is this day." One of the easiest things to lose during a difficult season is perspective. When a current need feels urgent, it can seem as though God has never provided for you before and will never provide again. Like the fear narrows our focus, to the problem directly in front of us, instead of remembering the faithfulness that has already existed, that we've already experienced. So this is why God repeatedly calls His people to remember. In Deuteronomy, Moses reminded the Israelites not to forget the Lord after they entered a season of blessing. Their future security would not come from their own strength, their own wisdom, and their own abilities, right? Everything they had was connected to God's faithfulness and God's provision. The same reminder applies to us today. When we look back over our lives, we can see countless examples of God's care in our lives. He provided opportunities when doors seemed closed. He gave strength when we felt exhausted. He supplied wisdom when we did not know what to do next. And He often just carries us through situations that feel impossible. And sometimes we assume trust should come from having all the answers and knowing the next steps. But more often, trust forms from remembering. Every time you recall God's faithfulness, God's love, God's care for you, you gather evidence that He is still worthy of your confidence and trust today. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. We can trust that God's character is unchanging. He provided for you today and provided for you yesterday. He's going to provide for you tomorrow. You're not beginning this journey of trust with an empty record of provision, starting from nothing. You already have a history with God. And the God you are trusting for today's needs is the same God that's been providing for you all along your entire life. So I want you to take a moment and remember. Stop and just take a few seconds to reflect on your life. Think about seasons when you were worried about the future and when you were unsure of what happens next, or if you're facing a need that you could not meet on your own, especially financially, unexpected bills, etc. How did God provide? What solutions, opportunities, people, or blessings appeared along the way? And it may not be obvious at first. You may have to sit with it, ask the Holy Spirit to reveal more awareness, but as you remember these moments, I want you to thank God as well for all the ways that He's cared for you along the way. Write these down in your provision tracker, your journal. Remind yourself of all the ways God has provided for you in the past, so you can calm your fears and continue walking in the trust and knowing He will continue to provide for you. And as a further practice, as a dedicated practice today, it's going to take you the whole day. You earmark this for later if you need to. But today's focus is building a record of God's faithfulness. Throughout your day, I want you to write down every example of God's provision that comes to mind. Include answered prayers, your unexpected opportunities, moments of guidance, strength during hardship, just all your needs that were met at just the right time. Allow yourself to bring to mind all these memories and write them down. Even if you jot them down in your little phone notepad, just keep a record of everything that comes to mind about God's provision. And then in the evening, review your list and notice the pattern. God's provision may look different in each situation, but His faithfulness will remain the same. The goal is to remind yourself that the God who provided before is going to provide today and tomorrow, and you can trust His character. And I love positive affirmations, so if you want a few provision declarations to remind yourself of the truth today, just repeat these out loud to yourself at some point. Say to yourself, God has provided for me before, and He will remain faithful today. I choose to remember God's faithfulness instead of focusing only on my fears. My life contains evidence of God's care, guidance, and provision. And the God who carried me through the past will continue to lead and provide for my future. Trust that God has already provided for you before. You're not starting from scratch. Just train your awareness to recognize it, see it, so that way you can build trust and confidence the further you walk with the Lord, knowing that He will provide for you with all your needs today and tomorrow and forever. I'll see you tomorrow in another video on provision. I love you.